Bro, the last week has been crazy. Like I went into a trance state out of nowhere and saw like a bunch of my life play out
Whoa.
in a way that I didn't want to see it happen. Like I basically saw like the events of my life panning out through symbolism, and I was like, I knew what I was seeing. I knew that this was my life, and I
Mm.
saw these distinctive phases of like psychological transformation, and they all ended in India. Like,
Uh,
and I've been thinking about India a lot lately and how I want to go, and I'm like pretty committed to going in January.
Word.
Um, but later that night, I was just like, I was in the pool and I was thinking about what that vision could have meant. And I started sort of, I do this thing in the pool where I'll release all of my breath and sink to the bottom of the pool. And
Mm-hmm.
when I need the air, I'll come back up, I'll breathe, and I'll go right back down. And I do this for like, it's kind of a meditation. I do this for sometimes 15, 20, 30 minutes. Um, and when I hit the bottom, a few times I was and like really wanted air. I was like, I wonder if this is what like reincarnation is like. It's like this
Hmm.
gasp, this grasping for life, you know? And I was like, what if this is just like what if meditation and spiritual development really just brings us to a point where we're comfortable with that emptiness and we don't need that warmth and energy of life, and so we can choose to like remain in like a state of like light or void or whatever is
Mm.
there beyond physical form. Just be with our own consciousness, and then maybe we get to be very selective about where we come back and how we came back, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Have you ever read the Tibetan Book of the Dead?
I have. It was a really long time ago.
Um, that's literally so they I don't know, I'm not so much sure of choosing, but I am very confident that we have that ability if we can consciously start the death process whenever we can choose it. First of all, I believe that. Um, then I do think if we could do it all consciously, we can reach an awareness to where we could totally choose it. But the Tibetans, I know they will send like, what do you call it? Agents, if you will, but people who are consciously dying and recording the process. They get to such a beautiful meditative state. They can be conscious through the entire process and to even being reborn. And they're so conscious that when they are born again, when they reach to the age of talking, they start, hey, take me to my temple. I just died recently. I need to go report what happened, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, 5, 6 years old.
Wow.
And so to the Tibetan Book of the Dead kind of talks about that a little bit, but there's some talks that I've watched that also go into that. Um, yeah, it's an
It
interesting
like
topic to think about.
like that either implies that there's a choice that happens about where to go to reincarnate, or there's an energetic, like magnetic draw back to this community that they committed to continuing to work within, you
Mhm.
know. And I
Amen.
think death can probably, for many people who have no comfort with like void states, I think it can be probably a very uncomfortable experience if you, because I think as below, as above, so below, right? So your personality, if it's not developed, if there's no spiritual element to your personality, if you haven't cultivated anything down here, then up there you're also not going to be comfortable with just like resting in silence, you know,
Mm.
perhaps being among eternal beings, shapes and forms that you've never seen. You know, it could be very frightening, I believe. Uh,
Totally.
so I think if you really master all of the like all of those cosmic states, then when you are there, you can be comfortable enough to like reconnect, come back, you know, and
I feel that.
yeah, it was a cool experience. Then my whole day yesterday was really really weird.
It's amazing. So you was just meditating, like,
Um, yeah, I mean, I get in the pool as often as
so
possible.
that happened while you were doing that thing with the pool. You had that vision.
Yep. And then I had a completely irrelevant like business breakthrough like 5 minutes later, and like,
It's how it works, dude. It's like
yeah,
it's that frequency, and it's like the releasing of resistance just
yep.
like makes something happen. Because like doing a lot of times is resistance. It's
Dude,
like
it completely is. And I mean, I've found this so much in my life where like before I started trading, I had another business, and like I was kind of just like it was a grind for me. I was dealing with like a really serious injury, so I was in pain a lot of the time. And I just decided at the end of the year, man, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna manifest more money this month than I made any other month this year, and I'm gonna work like a quarter of the amount of time I work. And like lo and behold, I was part of this like really minor car collision. It was actually a really major car collision, but I was fourth in a row. And I ended up getting paid out so much from that. And then I got money from somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. And I was just like, okay, I actually had my most profitable month. And then I just like focused on doing nothing but manifesting for like the next 3 months. And that finally led into my van life journey and, all kinds of, you know,
so amazing.
yeah. And then, I mean, that transitioned into COVID. So that's just a whole different phase of life. So
We create with our minds. You guys hear it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's no joke, dude. Like I've gotten plane tickets canceled, just by believing that I didn't have to go home from a vacation.
Yeah.
I was in Iran for like 2 months, seeing my like real family and my real culture and my real heritage for the first time. And I just wasn't ready to go. And I just told the universe, I'm not leaving. My aunt was like packing my bag. She's like, like you have to go in 2 days. We have to get you to the airport. I was like, no, I'm not leaving. And my uncle was like, he was starting to catch on that I was like kind of into this stuff. And he's like, yeah, he's not leaving. And then the next day they called us and they were like, Lufthansa went on strike and your flight has been canceled for at least 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, that happens. That for me, that's happened also with flights, with specific trips I didn't want to do, specific meetings that I felt like I may have made the meeting, but then I had an off vibe of the person. And I just like, I will consciously think like, I'll imagine in my mind, like whatever cord is connecting us in that meeting, I'll imagine it being cut. And most of the time they will text me and say, hey, I can't make it.
Yep.
And I'm like, great, it's perfect. Yep. Like there was this girl I was supposed to go live with. She wanted to like interview me in a couple days. And she kind of swindled me a little bit. She's like, yeah, I've been trading forever. And I realized she's been trading for like 2 months. And and it was just anyways. And so I was like, I don't really want to chat much. And
I mean,
she hit me up. It's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, so in the trance that I went into yesterday, I saw some really like not pleasant things playing out. And I realized that like my life needed a pretty major course adjustment. Because I saw the path I was on. I have actually been like working in a state of resistance a lot. Like, I'm starting a business and it's just been like there hasn't been flow. And like as soon as like I felt like I saw that, like, you know what? If life's gonna play out this way, I may as well go back to just enjoying every day the way I used to. And then one of my business partners dropped out, which I think was actually a positive thing. Like it like literally that same day, I was on the phone with my other business partner and he was like, yeah, like he's dropping out. And I was like, I feel so much lighter. And also I have a solution to the problem we've been having. And boom, like it was completely solved like that.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, whenever I feel like either in business, if I'm just like I've been like hustling or something and it's some things aren't happening, or trading as well. Like I figured out that if I was like hustling and chasing trades and like nothing was happening, just going out and having fun. Like that's one of the best things you do. Like today, Mia and I are probably gonna go jet skiing and maybe go get some pedicures. It's like our thing. So like that's it. And just doing that, it's amazing. We actually are creating more when we're in that space than we are when we're out, chopping the wood, and bailing the water.
I don't honestly get it. Like, I feel like effort is needed sometimes, and then you just let go and everything falls into place. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not the doer. This was like one of my mantras when I was studying Nisargadatta Maharaj, is like, I'm not the one doing this life thing. I'm an action and an expression of it. And I'm not limited. Like, I can't limit my idea of productivity to like what comes out of this spinal column, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the whole picture. I'm not doing all things.
Mm,
In a sense I am, but in another sense it's just like there's I mean, like, I'm not the one pumping my heart.
right.
you
Right.
know
Exactly. That's
this
it.
this
Exactly.
eye that thinks it's owns the body isn't actually the prime operator of it.
Right.
It's kind of a secondary operator.
So true. So true. You reminded me, by the way, when you were speaking of how your life was kind of going this path and didn't feel the best. I probably 2 months ago, I smoked a little bit of DMT, just like a DMT microdose, basically.
Mhm.
You just put it in with some tobacco, and I was halfway, like just feeling super ultra aware, and I had the same type of vision. And what it led to for me was that eventually I saw myself for some reason going to jail. And I'm like, dang, well, wait, why do I see that? And why do I feel that?
Mm.
And what it led down to, I was able to ask my consciousness, or my higher consciousness, and I got the answer that you need to go into seclusion at a point in your life. You need to have that seclusion to be with yourself, with like no outside stimulus. And I'm like, well, dang, is jail the only way? And basically the answer I got was like, well, with the path you're going on right now, that's the best way. But I'm like, then
Mhm.
and when I say ask, it's like, it's so cool how this happens when we're in this state, because what we're doing, I feel like, is asking higher like super consciousness, which is also part of us, and we're a part of it. And so I was asking, like, is there another way that I can do it? And the way I was doing that was like envisioning other ways. So one place my mind went was going to India, which is one place that I've been once. I stayed there for 2 months, and it was a super powerful place. I went into seclusion for 3 days at a temple, and that was like life changing. And so I couldn't imagine a long period of time. So, anyways, the answer I got, I felt like I was able to breathe light and breathe energy into that vision I had of me going to jail, which I was like, dude, I don't want to do that. Like that
Yeah, yeah,
sounds super
yeah.
shitty. And by breathing light into it, I was able to start I could see that I was able to move my path a little bit towards and I don't know how successful I was in totally switching it over, but I am staying conscious and aware, of my decisions, just by being addicted to the things, to my phone, to business, to friends, even to all that. It can make it really difficult to go into seclusion, which can be so good for us. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And I had sort of a similar experience, and then we can switch to trading if you want. But like,
yeah.
I was like, I don't really want this. Like, this isn't the life I would choose for myself. And yet, like, the idea that you could possibly replace or transmute some of those experiences, like, okay, if I choose to go into seclusion, then I've taken my power back from this like other reality where I just end up there because the universe needed me there to spark something in me or to
Hmm.
change something about me. And so I take that power back and I want to do it myself. And I want to take responsibility for my life and for how it manifests rather than allowing my unconscious patterns, of which I have many that aren't healthy. Like, it's absurd. um,
Welcome to the human experience.
yeah. So anyway, yeah.
But it's good, like everything is for our higher growth. Like
Yeah.
I believe that wholeheartedly. So
Alan asked me how often I meditate. Pretty much never, Alan. I I used to live with monks, and I think I meditated like enough for to cover myself for a while. But yeah, I don't particularly feel drawn to like sitting meditation anymore. Most of my meditations are either in nature with psychoactive substances or with nature. Or sorry, I already said nature, or with water.
Yeah. So his meditation yesterday was doing the, like, where he would breathe all the way out, go to the bottom of the pool, and then hold his breath there, and just you said you're just being. Were you directing your mind anywhere, or just?
No, I dip my head underwater. I start releasing all the air out of my lungs. That makes me sink to the bottom. When I reach the bottom, I just stay until I need air, and then I come back up and go back down. It's almost feels like Sufi kind of, just like this
Yeah.
this dance of, yeah, man. Yeah, it's terrific. I've been lucky to have just like a pool in my backyard for the last 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Well, come hang out anytime. We got one here too.
heyo.
Yeah. Powerful. I'm actually, well, we can move to charts now, but I am in the process of making it's going to take some time, but a whole subconscious programming course, and I want to really go into that, to like deep into creating, not like creating our reality and how we do it and how we get into those higher mental states, those higher frequencies, to really tap into create. It's something I'm going to experiment with like my whole life. I actually firmly believe that we can, and obviously this proves we manipulate matter and reality with our mind. I believe that we can continually practice this to a point where we could instantly manifest, we could instantly do anything. We can manipulate our body, like the things that it talks about in the Bible, some of the crazy stuff where people could grow really, really huge and get really, really small. And there's a lot of stuff in Hinduism as well. I believe that all these things are possible to the awakened consciousness. But it could be millions of lifetimes, to learn all these different things and to awaken our consciousness to that. But I also believe that eventually we could get to the point where we don't have to leave our physical body upon death. We can reach such an enlightened state, or such a higher state, that we can materialize our body to a higher frequency where it wouldn't be so visual in this 3D world. And I actually think there's even frequencies of this physical world that we're in that are really, really low, that like you or I wouldn't even be able to perceive, and they almost wouldn't be able to perceive us because it's such a difference in frequency. And so they talk about in Mormonism, they say that there's 3 different levels of heaven, and that you basically choose where you go, because the highest is with God. And they say that those that aren't fully pure, they're just not going to be comfortable enough to be around God, and they'll be lower. But I think that is just a great visual to how things exist right now. I think we can access heaven and God in this body. It's just that through our minds, through our consciousness, through many lifetimes, whatever, just growing from a spirit baby to what we are now. We're gonna go into that. So anyway,
I'm smiling right now because I really like Mormon mythology.
Yeah.
And I like, just quick tangent. When I was younger, I was visited by some of these people who go around. What are they called? Missionaries, or
Yes, exactly.
and they were like 2 really, really cute girls, and I kept inviting them back to keep talking about like Mormonism. But we got into these discussions where I was like, yo, in Hinduism it's like this as well, like, and like that and that, because I was kind of trying to, at the same time I was enjoying their company, but I was also like trying to see if there was a shift, like how deep is this connection between their philosophy and my philosophy. Finally, one day I went to their church, and like I like wanted to vomit like the moment I got in there. And like after they gave me bread, I like put it in my mouth, and I was like, no, I like cannot take part in this ritual, and I left and spit it out. And
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
See, I was Mormon for a solid 9 months. I did it all, but it was mostly for a girl. So interesting. Yeah, I think that like I've been part of, I was Christian for a little while, like Mormon, and I practice heavy Buddhism and I practice heavy Hinduism. And I think each one I just learned a little bit more and more, and it raised my frequency, did what it needed for what I needed at that time spiritually. And now I'm at this point where it's like I don't need to attach myself to a dogma. I don't see God in the same, like most people see God as like their children and God as their parent and their helpless children. And God, please take care of me. I can't do any of this. I'm like, oh, please feed me, do this, do that, give me money, all that. And I was that way as well, following religions. And now I believe that I'm at this point where God, I realized that as a parent wants their child to grow into someone strong and do amazing things, and potentially even if they're a really loving parent that can let go, they want them to do greater things than they did, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
There's no difference in what God has in store for us.
exactly. Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what like a good parent wants, like a good parent who's also an infinite creator wants their child to actually become an image, like equally mature
Mhm.
as itself. But
Amen.
yeah, and I just yesterday, like I had a moment with Allah, right? Like that's, I don't have those often, but when I was in Iran, like I had a special kind of like different connection with Allah than I had with the concept of God that I grew up with here in the US, because it was like from my people, and like it's so integrated into the culture. Like I wasn't introduced to religion as a kid. Like my mom kind of prayed a bit and I was like, what are you doing? Um, you know, and but when I was in Iran, getting to connect with people who were like, their lives revolve around this to some degree. It's 5 times a day.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And
Dedication.
you're sitting in your house and you hear the prayers start from these megaphones outside, and it's like it's actually a really beautiful experience for a culture to be so enveloped, so deeply interconnected with their spiritual tradition. um
It's powerful. I agree.
yeah.
I definitely agree.
You want to do some charts?
Let's do it, dude. Yeah. Do you
Okay.
want me to go first or you want to go first?
um Whatever works best.
What
We've
do
never
you
done
what do
this
you have
before,
up pulled
so
up right now?
bum, bum. Let me actually make sure I have Bitcoin up, which
Nice.
I would love to talk about.
Same.
The only thing maybe I can screen share and you can, like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Can I
how
screen
about
share?
this? You share, and I'm gonna start looking at charts. I'll look at some forex pairs and see if I see any good looks.
Yeah. All right. Let me hit that share screen button.
But yeah, I have Bitcoin all mapped out too, and I'm stoked to talk about it.
Okay. You guys can see my screen?
I can see it perfectly. Yeah.
Okay. So, Bitcoin, obviously for some people, this chart might be a little confusing. I have a lot of stuff up that is, kind of unique to my system. But I did throw some Bollinger Bands on here, and then I just imagine I think it's the 50 EMA that runs on yours. Is
Mine's
that
a
right?
20.
Oh, it's a 20?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so this is the daily. I'm kind of visualizing where that 20 is at, and it's probably right along this trend line because it tends to be right between the Bollinger Bands, right?
Mhm.
It's been a lot of good support. This has been an uptrend. I did expect the bottom somewhere around here, like 17.7 is where I believe we would bottom out. I don't know if that's like for good or if it's just like that's just where we're at right now. But in terms of the fibs, we got this nice little pop. So this is a measurement from the bottom to the first impulse, and we got this little wick here at the 1.618. This is really natural. I don't know how much of a percent move that was from the bottom. I mean, that's actually a lot more than I thought it was. So there's a 38% increase from the bottom. It's kind of natural to have a pullback. And then one of the things I look for is, this whole zone between like 22, so not 22, but 20.273 and 19.658. This whole area is where I often expect the major retests, but we've already had so much activity in this area that I feel like it could possibly be, I feel like we could be good potentially for a move up. It does look really nice with the confluence of bounces at these two levels here. There's one in light blue and one in black. So, I mean, the next move I would look for is basically this trend line, the 20 EMA needs to hold. And I'd like to see at least a retest of this at 22.7 before potentially continuing up for a retest of that 1.618. I think a lot of this is just going to, be determined by like Q4 and general world financial conditions and stuff. Because Bitcoin's gotten quite tied up with. I mean, I don't. It's pretty mainstream now, so it behaves according to some mainstream rules. I don't think we can expect it like a stupid fast run. But I do think that once this was a really quick move right here between 22 and 27. And I think once we get over this hump, we should be testing 27 fairly soon, like 25 to 27 should get tested. And if there for some reason there's a rally of some sort, personally, I'd look for a top anywhere here between 28 to 36. And that would just be based on price action. 28, because we have this consolidation zone. Consolidation also means that there's going to be resistance in this area right around 29, 30, big psychological level. A lot of people get out before the psych levels hit because they're so strong. Like 30 is objectively like a big number for Bitcoin. And 33 or so, 33.5 would be exactly the 50 retracement, from like if we basically it's half of what Bitcoin was worth, I think. Just let me double check that. No, it's like 34 or so. So yeah, I don't have any like definitive conclusions about Bitcoin right now, but I do think the daily chart looks good. And
what's your opinion on the monthly? We have 4 days left.
Yeah,
I want to say too that I'm waiting. I'm more of looking at like weekly, monthly, and
Yep.
I'm waiting for a retest of that 27K. It's a beautiful on the weekly chart. 27K around there would be a beautiful retest of the 20 period moving average. And to me, like I would say it's a beautiful retest to then go a little lower. But I'm also in a place of there's so much negative news right now in crypto, and history shows that that's like the best time to buy. So
yeah, right.
So I do want to say that in hindsight, but if we break 27, 28K, I'm like 33 especially, then I'm really stoked. I think we rally from there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the only point of caution I would have near 33 would be so what I would have to do is actually extend these lines out to the left to see if they have been significant. And honestly, they're not really. Like there's a couple taps on these two fibs in the past, but really the major one is going to be this 46. So I think I agree with you. Over 33, I think 40 would come fairly easily. I think buyers would start to. I think psychologically there would be a little bit of FOMO starting around 31 or so, 33, 32, 33 for people who've been too hesitant to get into this like lower 20s range. And we might see a little bit of a squeeze there.
feels good. I bought some, but I'm still probably like 75, 80% on the sidelines with crypto right now.
Okay, so you've added another like 10% or so.
Yeah.
You want to hop on a chart?
Sure, I could. Yeah, let's do it. I'm actually looking at a couple Forex pairs.
Yeah.
That yeah, let me take over really quick.
Do I have to? I probably have to end.
I don't
Or
think
you
so.
can. You can end me.
Can you see my screen now? Hold on, oh, it did multiple shares at the same time. That's why, but yeah, I got it. I can stop your sharing. Perfect.
Wait, we can do that?
That's what it showed. I don't know what they saw, but I was like sharing my screen while you were sharing yours. So send us a message, guys. Did you see both at the same time? That would have been tight.
I wonder if it like hops back and forth depending on who's talking, because that would actually be really, really cool for future reference.
Honestly, yeah. I'll have to check the recording, honestly, with what it did right there. I'll watch back. Let's see. No, this is at how many minutes in? Shoot, I don't even know. Oh well, we'll figure it out. Okay, I'm looking at GJ, and I love a few things. We're at a resistance level right now, but I potentially see that we could bust through. I'm watching the monthly, okay, so on the monthly, I'm seeing some resistance. Noting the Bollinger Bands, we were able to close pretty consistently outside the bands here, which for me is a strong sign that we're going to continue upward afterward. It's not the time to get in. The time to get in is when you see a beautiful retest. So we can see that we did get that here on this level, which was resistance back here, resistance back here. Also basically a retest of the 20-period moving average. But when we tested the top band this time, we've been rejecting. So we haven't been able to close outside. So I will say that that's, that's one thing to note, but I feel strong about it because when we bottomed out, what was that, in March 2020? We've been going up since. The last time we were at that level was 2017 and we booked it upwards. Before that was 2012, around that time, and we sent it straight. And then even before that, there was 2009. We also had a time in 95. So because we went up pretty high after those levels, I'm gonna say that I would assume that we potentially could as well. I like, until we actually break this level, I'm not going to get into a trade. You can definitely see there's a tight squeeze on the weekly here. We're trying. We got 2 days left for this candle close, but we are holding. We are being supported above that 20-period moving average. But for me, until we break, I would say just wait. When we break, though, because of the pressure this has been building now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, basically 2 months. I believe it'll send it pretty fast, pretty high. So on the daily here, we're noticeably getting higher lows, but we're also getting lower highs currently. So paying attention to that. Yeah, same thing, consolidation zone. But I think this is a beautiful chart just to pay attention to. I don't have the fibs drawn on this one, so I'd be curious to see what this is on a fib level. But yeah, it's looking pretty good for me.
I'm actually working on that right now.
Nice. Well, I won't go to another chart then. I'll wait till you're. I honestly don't, like, lately I haven't been really going under the daily charts. I just kind of seeing it all as noise. Just with the time that I have, looking at 4 hour for the most part right now, just is kind of a waste of time for me.
4 hours a waste of time?
It's not a waste of time. It's just a waste of time for me because I may not look at charts for like a day, or actually be in the consciousness to make a trading decision for a day or even 2 days. So I'm looking more like daily, weekly, monthly right now.
I can share what I have. It's a quickie that I just did. Can we try that thing where we both share? Because I'm really curious what actually happens. So I'm talking, in theory, my screen shows that. What if you talk, Cody?
So yeah, your screen is only one sharing right now. So let me share mine again.
Oh, got it.
And what can you guys see? Can you guys tell us, like, do Do you see a black background chart? Oh, me
Or,
as a viewer, I get to pick. Alan says he gets to pick.
oh, you get to pick. Got it. Okay. I mean, that's actually pretty cool because we can just leave them both running.
Yeah. Yeah, we can
Um,
totally do that. You guys can just switch on whoever's talking.
so just like well, there's a bit of it's just like basic chart patterns here. This is a sort of some kind of triangle we've got going here. One little anomaly wick doesn't throw me off, but this is definitely some kind of I mean, it's a consolidation, right? And it's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Typically, after 5 waves in a consolidation phase, there's a breakout to one direction or the other. This looks more like you were saying more up, right, Cody?
I'm saying that I would guess up, but we are kind of getting resistance. I'm seeing some divergence. To me, it's a waiting period, but
Yeah. So in the LA wave theory, this is called an Abcde pattern, and I really like it because it's very easy to define. It's like the lower lows, higher highs, right? And you get an A, B, C, D, E, and at the end of E, which is typically about like 61% of the length of this wave, A, B, C. So wave E is like looking like it might be finished, typically won't break the trend line, cannot go below this level, which I don't think it will. But as soon as it breaks this trend line, it's basically you're good to go. So that's the main thing I would be watching is just like how this triangle is playing out. And as for fibs, so I'm on the daily chart. These black lines are macro. Just hide that. So macro, you know, not a whole lot of clarity here from the fibs. That bounce was pretty clean. This bounce kind of signifies something, but again, like we're kind of stuck between two zones where I expect reversals over and over. So really for me, that break of like 166.24 along, which would coincide with the break of the trend line, would probably be a great entry. And then in terms of like lower time frame, again, like, you know, I wouldn't really mind a retest of the 1, which is super common, right? So we've gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 retests of the 1, which is just what most people call, you know, support or resistance. So this was a previous resistance, now it's a support. I just try to measure the degree to which it's testing that, and so far it hasn't even dipped into like this zone where I typically like to buy, like below 6.5. But because we're in this pattern where the higher highs the higher lows keep coming in, I sort of expect not to see these levels tested anytime soon. So yeah, again, I think everything points up on this chart.
Love it. Yeah, I feel that. We'll see how it goes. Gold. Lika asked about gold.
Yeah,
She said she's looking at a gold short. I can share my screen really quick again, or I mean, I stopped sharing so I could see yours.
Yeah, let's hop over to your chart then.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look at the weekly now. Funny, Lika, I have a sell that I drew out yesterday. Yeah, yesterday on a call. I'm not in the trade. On the weekly, we're kind of overstretched and we hit support, but I just now started sharing my screen. Okay. It just told me. Okay, so on the weekly here, we did just hit support, and we can see the last couple times we've been there, we bounced pretty strong. But one really strong indicator I like to look at is the idea of whole engulfing movements. So I consider this a whole downward movement. You could even split this into two. Here's down, up, down. But overall, we can see this whole upward movement from this extreme bottom to the extreme top. This downward movement has completely overtaken this upward movement, looking specifically at the candle bodies. So because we've closed pretty heavy, pretty strong under these lows here, that says that obviously the buying pressure isn't there, and there's not as many buyers as there were before, and there's definitely a lot more sellers than there were buyers. Because I'm also looking at look at how long we ranged before we just went up, right up to here, right up to the all-time high, basically retested and went down. It took so long to make that movement, and we've overtaken that in like a quarter of the time. So the momentum is obviously to the downside right now. I would say, though, this is very clearly a hammer after a strong downward movement. So based off the weekly, it's not a trade that I would enter. We have a close in 2 days on the monthly here. And basically the main level that I would look at is this purple line right here. This low was in March of 2021. And I believe, and I see that this current monthly candle, it's obviously testing this bottom. I think that if we overtake, basically if this candle body closes below the body lows of this low here, I believe we'll continue down. We'll get at least one other monthly candle downward. I have this little trend line. It could be a retest of that maybe. If we don't close below the candle bodies, then it would be for me, at least off the monthly chart, I'd want to wait a little bit. So we could front run the monthly a little bit, like kind of see what happens by looking at the daily and the weekly. I will say that the weekly is not in a good place to get into a sell. We're decently overstretched. We've moved down pretty strong, and we just, last candle was a bullish candle. And then going to the daily, I do see that I can totally see why Lika would see a short here, because the daily looks like a beautiful retest of that 20 period moving average. We can also see that we had a little bit of support because we came down and we stayed steady at this level here at 1737. And then we have now just retested that. However, the very beginning of this movement, I like to usually when a movement starts, so we're in a downward movement that has started, the first candle a lot of times will indicate how the movement plays out. So what I mean by that is, since this candle here did not engulf the previous bullish candle, then I don't believe that this downward movement will engulf the bullish movement. So because we're smaller than I think we're going to go a little sideways, and we may even reverse a little bit here. Even though I drew this short because of that daily close, I don't see that. Yeah, we moved down, but I'd want to see a lot stronger downward movement. You could, yeah, okay. Alan says check the 1 hour. You could catch 60 pips on the 1 hour. Yeah, the 1 hour definitely looks like it's going down. Now, no, of course, I'm charting all the higher time frames, and yeah, 4 hour looks ready to dip. 1 hour definitely looks ready to dip lower. So we'll see. Is it a trade I would make? Not on the high time frames, but yeah, on the low time frames, you might be able to catch a bit. But to me, I would say I have this line here. It's my first level that I would see a potential bounce. And I just don't see the risk to reward ratio there, even on the 1 hour, because in a good location for the stop loss, of course, above the previous high, that's the most obvious place. If you wanted to push it, you could put it above the previous hourly candle. And that would also be above the 20 period moving average. But I don't see that as a good place to put a stop loss on the 1 hour. So yeah, you could catch it. Not a good enough trade for me to make personally, but yeah, long term.
Could I chime in?
Yeah, let's hear what you got.
I actually really like, I love how am I on?
Yep.
Okay, so I measured the top, and it's just so beautiful how this support ended up being the 6.618 level, and how we're rejecting again off of this 5.618. So typically when I would want to see at least like 2 to 3 rejections at this level, and then an engulfing candle off of the 5.618. to consider a short position. But like you, Cody, I don't see a trade here yet. I think if we retested down here around this 1679 support, I believe it would hold, right? So that's actually a decent long entry, and you could have a very, very tight stop loss, right? Like just a few bucks. But I love this chart. It's very pretty, it's very elegant, and for the time being, I think shorts are the way to go, but I would mostly want to play them off of rejects at like 1740, this area. I would also play a reject at 1762, or even if we came up and like tested this previous, I probably want to hop up my time frames if I want to talk about supply and demand zones, but there was a, there's a decent like demand zone in here. I define demand zones as anywhere where wicks continuously like show buyers stepping in. So I'd say around here we should get some rejects as well. So, I'm gonna set some alerts actually, because these look like really decent trades once they form. That's my 2 cents.
I love it. Yeah, patience. I'm flowing a bit. I marked a couple other charts, and we don't need to go in depth because on all of them I don't really see a full setup yet. The only one that looks the best is Euro USD. Wait, hold on, let me make sure. Yeah, Euro USD looks like the best opportunity for a potential short here. But same thing on the weekly. The last week's weekly candle was a strong bullish candle, so I wouldn't want to get into it. It looks good on the daily for a potential short. I'm going to go down to the 4 hour in a minute, but because of the weekly, I wouldn't act on the short on the daily just because of that. Now 4 hour, if I'm watching charts, see, this looks beautiful. We got a perfect little retest where we had this support level here broken down, retested it, and we're moving down. So the sell looks good on the 4 hour. Also the 1 hour, we got 15 minutes for this 1 hour close, but we can see that we're testing where we saw support here. I just don't see why that would hold, because we made a lower low with that low there. But it is a level because we saw it over here as well. If we can close below this on the 1 hour, then I think on the 4 hour, it would be a good short. And I would be really, really, really careful. And I would definitely be liberal with closing this one as soon as we're in a decent profit because of the weekly. Simple as that. And if this trade was open for like a couple days, I would definitely make sure and close this on the weekend, because we're coming on the end of the month. And so crypto and a lot of other charts, it's probably good to stay decently patient. If you're doing more short-term trading, 15-minute, 1 hour, okay. But if you're doing like more swing trading, 4 hour, daily, weekly, it could be good to just wait out the monthly close, which is in a few days. So, but yeah, I also see GBP USD seems to be on the monthly. It's reaching support, but I don't see that holding long term. Same thing, not really a good place to get into a trade, kind of a waiting zone. It looks like it could bounce, but the bounce looks weak on the weekly. Bing. Yeah. Honestly, British pound Australian dollar looks decent. You started looking at Forex consistently, or is that just this week? It's kind of off and on.
I'm starting to look at it a little, closer, and I'm starting to paper trade on it. You're talking about GBP AUD?
Yeah, I want to see if you've looked at that one recently.
It's not even on my list, so I've not looked at it.
Okay. Well, we've been in this consolidation for like months, and it looks like it wants to maybe possibly break to the downside.
Let me take good.
but I'm looking at a weekly chart.
Yeah, I mean, break of that 1.717 level, that could send it. And this is Great British Pound Australian. Yeah, so do you do fundamentals at all, Cody?
I'm not so good with fundamentals, not too much.
Yeah, I'm also not. I just feel like I don't have brain space for it.
Yeah.
But I think right now it could be important just to like have someone kind of read out the fundamentals and be like, okay, here's what's happening in Australia, here's what's happening in Great Britain economically, politically, and that could actually be the trigger that sends it in one direction or another. I'm looking at the monthly even, and it's just like all consolidation.
Yeah.
It really doesn't have a direction yet, but no doubt it will find one at some point.
I dig it. One thing that I'm seeing on the monthly is that the high in 2020, we hit that high, we came down, we bounced. And when we bounced, we made a lower high. And I see on the price action that I was talking about individual movements engulfing. I see that this bounce here from the bottom of like December 2020, January 2021, we've closed candle bodies below that low, effectively making a new lower low. And so I do agree with you. It's not best to make a decision right now, but that's why I'm leaning more towards sell. That's one reason. Because the momentum seems to be pretty good on the downside. And if we look at the weekly, it's like a perfectly beautiful retest on the Bollinger Bands of the 20 period moving average. And we have a tight squeeze right now. So it's like, it's looking good.
Yeah, the way you just explained it made me see your perspective better. And I totally agree that engulfing on the monthly is, yeah, I think that's pretty significant. So, and then we keep closing under that level. So for the last 4 months.
But we'll see, because it's like, we're testing out the bottom band on the monthly, because so you can say that too, So I think this one for me, it'd be good to wait the 2.5 days until you get that monthly close. Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, I'm feeling pretty good. I can feel the energy kind of going down a little bit in myself. I'm feeling like I might want to move on to something different.
Yeah.
I do have space to talk about crypto, but I want to know how you're feeling.
I have a tremendous amount on my plate today.
Yes, you got plans tomorrow.
I do, and I have a lot I need to do before I'm ready. So this is my spot to dip out. This was amazing. I really enjoyed this, and we'll talk later, Cody, about how we can do this again and like with what frequency, because I enjoy looking at charts with you.
Yes, it's a good time, good combo.
Yeah, brings a little joy back into the process to like work with someone else, and also just to see a totally different perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, just to be open. And I think that's why, like, as we get the team rolling and we get the group rolling, it's going to be so important. We can all lean on each other to really succeed at super high levels. So yeah, well, amazing. Yeah, honestly, that's kind of what I was feeling. I was gonna say, if you had energy, I'll go over crypto, but I'm kind of ready to move on. So.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we can revisit crypto probably after this monthly close, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So that's actually right when I'll be available again. I'm packed and up through July 31st. And then get that monthly close, make some decisions or don't.
Yes.
It'll be fun.
That might be a perfect time because the group, they're all saying they want to do a crypto call anyway. So like maybe we could do that next Tuesday or Wednesday. I have a flight on Wednesday. Well, Yeah, I don't think I don't know. We'll see. I might be able to make it next Wednesday, but I'm going to Guatemala for a few days. So
Awesome.
we'll work it. Amazing. Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone getting on. I appreciate you, Kian, for your time and for your wisdom.
You as well.
And, till
Yeah,
next
thank
time.
you, everybody.
All the love, guys. I'll post a
Have a
recording.
beautiful day, guys.
See you guys.